Hello everyone, and welcome to the EcoSummit 2023 Low Carbon Commuting Panel. We are honored to have you all with us today, whether you are here or live on Zoom and YouTube, wherever you are across the country. Bonjour à toutes et à tous, et bienvenue au panel sur le déplacement à faible émission de carbone, dans le cadre de l'EcoSummit 2023. C'est un immense honneur de vous avoir parmi nous aujourd'hui, que ce soit en personne, mais également en direct sur Zoom et YouTube. First, let's take a moment to recognize the territories and diverse cultures of Turtle Island, on which we currently find ourselves. EcoSchools aim to engage, honor, and celebrate diverse cultures, voices, perspectives, and communities across Turtle Island, as well as the integration of indigenous perspectives into our program and communications. We are committed to learning and unlearning by connecting our work to broader projects of social justice, inclusion, and reconciliations, and we deeply encourage this reflection, growth, and practice with the communities we serve. Prenons d'abord un moment pour reconnaître les territoires et les diverses cultures de l'île de la Tortue, sur lesquelles nous nous trouvons actuellement. EcoEcole vise à soutenir, amplifier et célébrer les diverses communautés de l'île de la Tortue, et travaille à reconnaître de multiples approches et connaissances ainsi qu'à l'intégration de perspectives autochtones dans notre programme et nos communications. Nous nous engageons à développer continuellement notre rôle et nos responsabilités au niveau personnel, mais également au sein de l'organisation, et encourageons cette réflexion, croissance et pratique avec les communautés pour lesquelles nous œuvrons. EcoSchools Canada's mission is to foster student leadership, reduce the environmental impact of schools, and build sustainable school communities. In this perspective, the EcoSummit 2023 represents an exceptional opportunity for learning, exchange, and acting regarding the climate through its rich and diverse agenda focused on 4 themes: the low carbon commuting, outdoor learning, waste reduction and climate action. La mission d'EcoEcole est de renforcer le leadership des élèves, de réduire l'impact environnemental des écoles et de construire des communautés scolaires durables. Dans cette optique, l'EcoSummit 2023 représente une occasion exceptionnelle d'apprentissage, de rencontres et d'action en faveur du climat. À travers sa programmation très riche, axée sur 4 thématiques, qui sont les déplacements à faible émission de carbone, l'action climatique, l'apprentissage en plein air et la réduction des déchets. For the next few weeks, you can access all the presentations and webinars recorded for the EcoSummit from our website and also our YouTube channel. Please feel free to watch these sessions in your classroom and communities and enjoy the rich content the EcoSchool teams has put together this year. Donc au cours des prochaines semaines, vous pourrez accéder à l'ensemble des présentations et des webinaires enregistrés dans le cadre de l'EcoSummit via notre site web et notre chaîne YouTube. N'hésitez pas à les regarder avec vos classes et vos communautés et à profiter du riche contenu que l'équipe EcoEcole a mis en place pour vous cette année. Before we begin our panel, I would like to thank Natural Resources Canada and the GM Group for making the EcoSummit possible. Thank you once again. Donc avant de débuter notre panel, nous aimerions remercier Ressources Naturelles Canada et le groupe GM, grâce à qui l'EcoSummit est rendu possible. Merci encore une fois. Our panel today will be hosted by Candice Batista, founder and editor-in-chief of the EcoHub. Candice is an award-winning environmental journalist as well as one of Canada's leading eco-advocates. Candice has used her background in media and communications to produce and report on various environmental and climate issues for digital audiences, such as the Huffington Post, the Globe and Mail, the Weather, and Rogers Television, to name a few. Donc notre panel aujourd'hui sera animé par Candice Batista, qui est fondatrice et rédactrice en chef de l'Eco-Hub, journaliste environnementale primée et fière défendresse de l'environnement au Canada. Candice a mis à profit son expérience des médias et des communications en abordant différentes questions environnementales et climatiques pour divers auditoires tels que le Huffington Post, Globe and Mail, Rogers Television, pour n'en citer que quelques-uns. But before we go to the panel, once again, I would like to invite Christy Brown, who is CSR manager at GM Group, to say a few words before passing it to our panelists. Donc avant de débuter notre panel, encore une fois, j'aimerais inviter sur scène Christy Brown, qui est responsable de la RSE à GM Group, pour quelques mots avant de commencer le panel. Merci beaucoup, Christy.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for choosing to spend your day with us today. At first, my name is Christy Brown. I'm the Corporate Social Responsibility Manager at General Motors Canada, and we are one of the sponsors of today's event. First of all, I'd like to take a moment to thank EcoSchools for all that they do in our communities to bring together students and youth like yourselves to help create a more sustainable world. I'd like to take a few minutes just to let you know that at GM Canada, we are really looking to partner with nonprofits to do great things for the world and create a more sustainable world. Right now, at this moment in time, we have a unique time. We're in a technological revolution. So you're seeing things change completely, like the way people move, the way goods move around. You're seeing those change like daily. And it's due to the fact that we're focused on creating a more sustainable world. And you're seeing things like EVs, low emissions. You're also seeing improvements in safety, mobility, and you're also seeing us focus more on our environment, your environment. So thanks again for joining us today. I would now like to turn it over to your host for the day, Candice Batista. Thank you.
Thank you so much. How are you all today? Thanks for coming out. It's not the best weather, but we're here and we're toughing it out. So we have a wonderful afternoon planned for all of you. Hi to everybody in the back. I'm first going to take an opportunity to introduce you to our wonderful esteemed panel, and then we'll get to some questions with them, and then we'll open up to all of you for some Q&A at the end of the presentation. So first off, we're going to talk to the lovely Elaine Kenny, an outdoor education teacher at Toronto Outdoor Education Schools. She has over 30 years of experience teaching students from various grades through hands-on experiential learning opportunities. She has written lesson plans for the TDSB on climate change and sustainable transportation, and has been an eco-coach for TDSB's Eco Schools program. Elaine holds a Bachelor of Education from the University of Toronto and a Bachelor of Physical and Health Education from McMaster University. Next up is Dan Hendry. He is a social innovator, facilitator, and mentor focused on making Kingston a sustainable, livable, and smart city. Look at that T-shirt, Dan. With a background in strategic sustainability and complex systems, Dan's passion is social innovation and sustainable solutions. He helped lead the transformation of public transportation with a model that increased high school ridership from 28,000 to close to 600,000 annually in Kingston. Dan holds a master's in strategic leadership towards sustainability with a Bachelor of Commerce and an international business diploma. Amazing. All of you. Next up is Omira Janhanomed, is GM Canada's EV Readiness Manager, supporting GM's transition to an all-electric future. With extensive experience in GM Canada's sales and marketing organization, Omira has built strong relationships with GM's dealer network and has a keen understanding of customer needs. Her previous roles also include an international assignment as a manager of experiential and branded entertainment for GM India and national manager Global Connected Services for GM Canada. Welcome. And then last but certainly not least is Nicole Roach, has a background in sustainable transportation with a BA in philosophy and communications from McMaster University and an MSc in sustainability science, policy and society from Maastricht University. At Green Communities Canada, she manages sustainable transportation programs, including Ontario Active School Travel planning, and co-leads the Canadian Electric School Bus Alliance with Equiterre. Am I saying that right? Awesome. Her work focuses on commuting behaviors, community outreach, and children's mobility. Yay! Welcome. Let's give them all a big round of applause. Okay, so welcome all of you students and teachers. I've been doing this for 30 years, and it's so nice to see so many young faces interested in low carbon community. Got to say that 5 times fast. So we're going to start things off first. How many of you have actually thought about how your carbon footprints affect, or your commuting affects carbon or climate change rather? Oh, most of you. That's pretty awesome. Yay. Well, we got lots of great questions to get to today. So we're going to start with the panel. We're going to open it up to everybody. How can we better help young people reduce their carbon emissions through their transportation choices? And Nicole, we'll start with you. Putting you on the spot.
Yes, it is a very big question.
It is.
Well, first thing is for people to be aware of the issue, and think young people especially are very, very good at being aware of the scale and scope of climate change and what we can do as individuals to improve that. But there's also an expression, it's not the kids these days, it's the built environment these days, or outside these days. So there's a misconception that it's kids that are just lazy or not wanting to walk or cycle to school, but it's really not up to the kids. When you look outside and look at the environment, it can be very hostile and unwelcoming. So the best thing that we can do to help individuals make more sustainable choices is to improve the environment and infrastructure. And we can do that through policies, programs, and lots of other things.
And we'll talk more about that with you in a bit.
Yes, we will.
Omira, what about you?
For sure. I think critical from my perspective from General Motors is education and awareness, as you mentioned. General Motors, we're doing a number of things. So for example, partnering with EcoSchools is one scenario where we're providing activities for students to create hands-on activities, such as how to build an electric motor, which is super cool. If you haven't tried it out, go on the website and try it out. But also another interactive platform that we actually just launched called EV Live. So we launched it to our dealers, and in 60 days we're launching it to the public, so please stay tuned. But it is an online, immersive, engaging platform that anyone can go on and interact with a live EV advisor. So any questions you have with regards to EVs and EV ownership can be answered on the spot. And I would say another piece to it is actually getting in an electric vehicle and simply driving it. So obviously you need to have a license and be able to drive. But what we're noticing is that as soon, and myself as a key example, but as soon as our customers get behind the wheel of an EV, and I would say, you know, more so than just 30-minute test drive, but be in it for about 2 weeks, that's when a typical consumer would fill up their car with gas. So that gives the consumer time to charge their EV, and then they notice that really driving an electric vehicle is the same as driving a gas vehicle, right? Except for the fact that you're not filling up the tank, you're saving on the cost of gas, and you're saving the environment. So at the end of the day, I think it's education, awareness, as you mentioned, and getting it out to as many people through as many channels as possible.
For sure. Dan, would you like to add something?
Yeah, if you don't, what was the question again?
Let me re-ask it. How can we better help young people reduce their carbon emissions through their transportation choices?
How many of you folks can drive? Right? And so I don't think
that's
it's
the
always
problem,
fair
right?
that adults look at young students and say, it's your future. You have to do something that you can't necessarily do yet. But what I mean by this is North America has been built around the car, right? We have been, right? In our built environment where we live, we have to work within that. Now we can change that, and I've been helping with that in Kingston, and that doesn't mean there isn't a spot for vehicles, electric vehicles especially. But I think where you're at right now, or where my daughter, who's 14, is taking the effort to become multimodal, which means figure out how to walk, use maps, right? Bike, transit, and then eventually maybe some vehicles. But when I look at that, I think it's more about just trying to become and understand how to use it all at our age right now. And everybody, I think, should have to become, or hopefully become, more understanding. When you leave the house that day, it could be one of many different transportation options. Thank you.
That's awesome. How can we help young people specifically reduce carbon emissions through their transportation choices?
Okay, so I'm going last. I'm jumping on what everyone said, and education, of course. I'm a teacher at the forefront, but exposure is another thing. So just have an understanding of all the options that are out there as far as transportation. Accessibility. So not only is it like accessibility, bike lanes, transit, like Yahoo, Toronto's finally expanding its transit as far as in our city, but in yours as well. I hope transit expansion is happening. As far as cost, 12 and under, it's free. Continue that upwards, and we'll be talking about that in a little while on the panel, which is awesome. The other thing is incentivize people. So I know that as an adult, if I were to buy 10 bus tickets, it costs cheaper, so continue on those sorts of things. Students understand that what our carbon footprint is and how we can make carbon offsets. So that's what we need to do moving forward.
Thank you so much, Elaine. And we're actually going to jump in and start with you. I know. You're like, oh, great. So I think one of the biggest things is how students can tangibly actually start doing things right now. A lot of the times we talk about these big problems, climate change, and it seems very existential or very far away. Like, what can you actually do? So when it comes to implementing low carbon community at their own schools, what can teachers and students do right now to actually get something started?
So I think the key to starting anything in a school is to start small, actually. So have the students start a travel journal. Maybe it could just be your eco club potentially that begins this, or a grade. So start with that, have them keep a travel journal, and then look at that travel journal and do a survey. So the whole class will do a survey, maybe the board division, whatever, and look at the different ways that you travel to school. Take it to the next step. So I'm thinking of the elementary panel at the moment, but I'll talk to the secondary as well. So in the elementary panel, next what you would do is look at different routes that students can take or different ways to travel, and actually take those with your students. So if you have a grade 5 class and parents are concerned about getting them on the bus, if bus is one of the options, take it as a whole class and advocate for the safety of that bus within that community, which is really awesome. Let parents know what you're doing and have them on board. Once you've done that, maybe you can move that to a full school kind of thing and start with one day. Have a spring into spring, and the whole school takes that initiative by walking to school. There's an International Walk to School Month, which is really important to get involved with if you take that route. A walking Wednesday. I've seen lots of schools that the entire school community walks on Wednesdays, and then they chart who in their class have walked that way, and the class that gets the most students walking or the lowest carbon output for that Wednesday, they might have a pizza lunch, or they may get an extra time outside, whatever. So those sorts of things are really important. Now for high school students, you could do something different. Of course, walking to school is different when it comes to high school, so maybe just promote the idea of your community. So something like a Jane's Walk. So celebrate the things that are really awesome about where you live. Host an evening or host a Saturday where you have a historical walk or a nature walk or an adventure walk, maybe a foodie walk, those sorts of things to promote what happens in your community as you walk.
What about things like bike racks and budgets? Like, you know, I think if you're going to school and there isn't a bike rack, it doesn't give much incentive to ride your bike there. So things like bike racks, maybe you could talk a little bit about what should students be asking for if they're trying to get to school in a more sustainable way?
Yes, so certainly bike racks, and look towards your board. So in Toronto, we're really fortunate in that we actually have instructional leaders for eco schools, and if you contact our department, jan.vetter@tdsb.on.ca. I've let her know ahead of time. If you contact her, she can help navigate the system of accessing funds for those sorts of things. In fact, right now there's a Youth Climate Action Grant available. It's $1,000 on the table, and there are also many grants in the boards across Canada that you can apply for funds in order to install those things. Your school might already have a bike rack, but maybe you'd apply for that fund or look to our instructional leaders to, you know, host an evening or a Saturday or something of that nature. So it doesn't just have to be for bike racks. Sustainability offices are across the board, transportation offices, they have funds and they have people in place that will help you on your journey.
So it'd be students talking to their teachers who would then put them in touch with the next step, basically.
Well, yes, so an eco team, or it could be your student council. Students reaching out, advocating on their own will help as well. There are always staff members who can help on your journey, but certainly students' voice goes a long way, and we need to be listening to those student voices.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think being your own advocate is one of the biggest things I think that students can take away today. Anyone want to add to that? Just tangible things that students and teachers can do right now in school? Dan?
Yeah, like I work part-time in Kingston and for a school board, right? And how old are people here? Like what grade? Like 14, 15, 16? Is that, yeah? That's here, yeah, okay. Across Canada, yeah?
17.
But you have a voice, you know? You really do. And you don't have to be scared to want a better future or things that you want too for this, right? You do have a voice, and your voice it deserves to be there. So the one thing I'd say is to learn how things work. I mean, it kind of sounds nerdy, and now I'm fogging up here, but people made these systems up before us. The education systems, the legal systems, or financial systems, they're all just human-made. They weren't better or worse than you. They're just made by people at the time that when they're made up, and they're always adapted. So take the time to learn how decisions are made. It's not just some magic box, oh, that happened. Somebody made a decision through some process. Whether it's right or wrong, it's different. But take time to look at how these decisions are made, to do some research, right? And listen with intent. So sometimes we listen to reply, right? Oh, I'm gonna get ready to say something to you. But listen with intent to learn of how to build that knowledge for yourself and your team and have a voice. Okay, that's what I would say to that.
That's awesome. Okay, so Dan, you helped change the transportation model in Kingston for students. Tell us about that model. I mean, going from 26,000 riders to almost 600,000, that's a huge jump. So tell us a little bit about that program, and then some of the biggest challenges, because I think if anyone's interested in doing something like that, I think it's good to know some of the things the challenges that you face that perhaps people can try and not face those.
So I would say, so very, very quick. So I'm from Kingston, Ontario. It's about 170,000 people. It goes up and down because there's the military base as well as the colleges, universities, but it's smaller, right? Keep that in mind because it is in Toronto. I came back today. I lived in Toronto years ago, and getting on the subway and the smells and the feel and when the subway comes down, right? It felt really good, right? Just experiencing that again. But I'm from a smaller town. Okay, I just got to start there because that's my context. So in 2012, the trustees, so they're like the councillors, the decision makers, the governance body of the school board, and the local mayor and councillors said, let's let grade 9s ride for free. Okay, so this is where I used my voice, and I know I was a 30-year-old, I had better hair back then, but I went and I said, we have to teach them. You know, nobody's using it because they don't know how to use it. So let's teach them. So what it became was in Kingston, Ontario, high school students ride for free, okay? And we let grade 9 the first year, and then 9, 10, 9, 10, 11, 9, 10, 11, 12. But what we found is by the time you are in grade 12, not you, but the you in Kingston, if you're in Kingston, or grade 12 students in Kingston, use it 3 times more public transit than grade 9s. Now that 600,000, it was up and down there before COVID. It's gone down obviously a bit, but it's starting to come back up. But it's about teaching. We literally take a bus to every school in grade 9 and teach them how to use transit. And think about that. It's not just about buses. You know, when adults look at me like, oh, you like buses. When I was your age, I didn't think I'd like buses this much. What is accessibility? It's freedom. It's greenhouse gas reduction. It's cost reduction. It's accessibility. It's equity. There's so many things about moving around a community that a good public transit system can do, right? And so that's a bit about what we did there. A bit different in Toronto. I'm not saying, well, we can't do it here. I'm actually working right now to try to scale it across Canada, right? Because there's so much value it creates for a community. The jobs you can get to now, right? Your parents or somebody who doesn't have to pick you up, saves a bit of time, right? Your friends to go to a show, right? All those things, volunteer opportunities, it comes from this. So I'm trying to distill the value of what's happening in Kingston to show other communities across Canada, because the money's there. The money's just being spent different ways, you know, the value that's being created. So as for a challenge, I'm not gonna go challenge. I'm gonna just say, listen with intent, do your research and advocate and be positive, show the value. We gotta make a better world by being positive. It's always easy to say, well, that's hard, can't do that. I didn't say that. I said, well, how can we do that? But then tweak it. Don't be afraid to tweak it. You have to learn from things, right? We actually didn't, the first year, I didn't take a bus to the kids, which was the best thing we figured out. I took kids to City Hall. Well, I thought I was gonna lose both my jobs that day because we have a really old City Hall and kids were going down the banister, okay? And the mayor looked at me and said, did you bring these kids here? And I said, yeah, you know, but we learned and we adapted. So I'll stop there. But yeah, it was about being positive, using your voice and doing your research.
How long did it take you to implement that? When did you see the change?
Well, like we didn't know what we were doing. Right, so I just got to start there too, because people look at the story now, they're like, oh, that's really cool, you did that. I didn't know I was going to do this. And again, when I was your age, I thought I was going to be Indiana Jones, and that didn't work out, okay? I'm the bus guy in Kingston. But it took it really was that first year, like the 4 years, because each one was new, right? Just grade 9s, then grade 9, 10, then grade 9 to 11, and then 9 to 11, 12. So it wasn't a couple of years after that we saw the system starting to mature, right? And we iterated and figured out what were the issues. Like one issue, it was never to be exclusionary, but we didn't know that about, I didn't know, I don't have a homeschool child. I didn't know about that, but it's open to them too. It's just we didn't communicate that way. So we had to learn and adapt as well and tell our story that way. But yeah, it took a while, but what's beautiful now is when I do it every September, I still do the training in Kingston. And kids are just like, yeah, we get a bus. This is normal. So we've normalized a cultural thing in Kingston that if we came to other cities isn't normal. And so you can change. It's beautiful that way. And where I see opportunity for all of us is sharing this knowledge, supporting different communities to do different things. Your community would be doing different things and better things than my community. And my community is different than your community. But if we share and support each other, that's where I see and gives me a lot of hope.
You mentioned that was awesome. You mentioned that you took students to City Hall. So how involved were students in the decision-making process?
Well, actually what I'm doing now, I think the decision-making at that point, it was always seeing what was useful. So when I talk about training students, what do you think I would be saying to them, right? Like in year one, I didn't really know, but where the students came in, they said, well, how do you do this? Or can I bring my backpack? Or, you know, so really a lot of what the student voice came in to really over time tell me to how to answer their questions. My September is the same every year. I get on a bus, and I do a presentation after a presentation after a presentation after a presentation, but I know what the students are going to like to hear because I've done it for 10 years. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dan. I'm sure you're going to have lots of questions for Dan. So, Nicole, your focus has been on commuting behaviors, community outreach, and children's mobility. So how can students and teachers work with governments and organizations and even individuals to encourage and improve low-carbon commuting? I think that's a big one, is the encouragement around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a big one. So as we all discussed, these are some structural issues that we're dealing with, so there are some big challenges. So it first really starts at the policy level. We did actually work with the HEAL Lab at Western University to develop a big report with 57 policy recommendations for every level of government, from the province to the municipality to the region. So things like ensuring that schools are located close to where people live, restructuring how we look at school zones, how we look at speed limits, how we look at traffic calming, and for that to be standardized across the province and across the country in some cases. So really starts at policy, and then after that, we need funding to be able to implement those policies. So a program that we led is called Ontario Active School Travel, and a component of that was the Ontario Active School Travel Fund, where we were able to grant out funding for communities to lead initiatives that fit in their local context. So whether it was traffic calming, cycling skills training programs, school streets, other fun things like that, we were able to provide support and also facilitate knowledge transfer between all of the different projects. So that has been a really wonderful thing we've been doing for 5 years, and we've seen a lot of success across the province and a lot of impact. And then the next level is at the school level. Another thing that we do is called school travel planning, which was developed back in the 90s with a pilot across Canada, and we continue to do this work in Toronto now. And it starts with identifying schools that may have traffic safety issues or other problems, going in, working with the school community, doing surveys, seeing how kids get to and from school, asking parents and caregivers what the barriers are to walking and wheeling, looking at the school site, at pickup and drop off, seeing where people are parking, where all the traffic congestion are, where it is. If parents and caregivers are parking on sidewalks, like U-turns, all those kinds of chaotic problems that can happen in school zones, and then working with the community to identify what possible solutions there are. So reduced speed limit, crossing guards, traffic calming, specific programs like walking school bus or walking buddies or a Drive to 5 program, different things like that that are very specific to the school. And this is also a program that works directly with the school boards and the Transportation Consortium and with the city. So then we're able to say, these are the solutions that the school wants, and then we work to implement them. So it's a very tailored approach because every school is different. So
we talked a little bit about being your own advocate and students being their own advocates. So is it helpful for students with teachers to put pressure on elected officials to make certain things come to fruition a little faster? Because a lot of stuff takes a long time. Like all those things you mentioned sound like they would take a long time to figure out. So how do we get around that, or maybe we don't?
I think elected officials hearing from students can be really powerful. Talking about their journey to school, taking photos, videos, showing the streets they have to cross that can be really scary, or showing the huge piles of snow that they have to walk up and down to get to school, seeing the chaos in the school zone. Like, these are real problems that are happening to students, teachers, families every day, and I think it needs to be at the forefront for elected officials, because I think kids are very vulnerable in many situations, so I think they really need to be prioritized within our transportation system, and I think largely with the focus on personal vehicles, they've very much been left out.
Yeah, I mean, that's great advice. I think using your own voice and writing, that's the most powerful thing you can do, is to write to your local MP, your local mayor, or whomever it may be, and I'm sure you all agree with that. So Omira, you are GM Canada's EV Readiness Manager. I love that title. How can students and teachers work with their communities to increase the accessibility to public charging stations, especially at school, I think, because there's a lot of stuff we can talk about with electric cars, for sure.
Yes, for sure. I love this question, might I say. At General Motors, we actually just launched a program called our Dealer Community Charging Program. So this is where I think any one of you in the room, students, teachers, can advocate for your schools. And how this program works is General Motors is partnering with our dealers and local community sites where you can install a charger to provide level 2 chargers to these sites. So that's free charging for you. So I advocate, reach out to your local dealer, because how it'll work is, and the locations we're targeting are locations where highly trafficked, where individuals are parked there for, a couple of hours, So community centers, hospitals, and schools are ideal locations for these chargers.
Amazing. Let's talk a little bit about GM recently made some big announcements. So it definitely feels like green jobs are here to stay. And I think we have students, it's good to talk about just some of the jobs that are available to them when they leave school. Any tips for students who want to pursue a green job?
For sure. And obviously, I work in the automotive industry. I work for General Motors, so I'm going to be a bit biased. But working in the automotive industry today is so exciting. We're honestly, I'd say, at the cusp or a tipping point, right, to that transition to electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. I mean, our vision is 000, which is zero emissions, zero congestions, and zero traffic. Zero emissions, zero traffic, and zero congestion. And for me to be able to come to work on a daily basis, love what I do, and know it has a direct impact on the environment is really fulfilling. So I'd say, first thing, find out what truly motivates you, right? Because that's key. Be passionate about something. But specifically to your question, what are the areas where jobs are growing, and specifically in the automotive industry, I'd say focus on STEM programs. So science, technology, education, mathematics. AI is huge as well. At General Motors, we're hiring software engineers who are focusing on the testing and development of our EV and AV technology, environmental engineers focusing on energy efficiency at our facilities. So those are some really up-and-coming areas. And, you know, I'm just thinking about this as I'm speaking. There are going to be 100 of jobs out there that aren't even around today by the time you graduate. For example, the job I'm in today didn't exist 2 years ago. I'm the first one, right? So I'd say the environment is extremely exciting. It's a great place to be in. So focusing in on STEM programs, and again, if you're passionate and motivated behind it, that's where the magic happens.
Dan?
Every single job can be a climate job. Every single one. Going forward in your life, in my life, for my kids' life, every single job. The people doing sound right now, musicians, artists, or storytellers, right? The engineers, the science, the math, whatever you like can be a climate job. Because it's your head. It's what you bring to it. It's what you prioritize. It's what you care about. Okay, so all of you, wherever you go, can be part of that. And I think that's important. It's not, you know, put me there and I am or not. We are. Okay, we are. So you are, and whatever you care about, find a way to slant it into something that you care about, like the greater peace, the eco club, the green team. Okay, so don't be shy if you want to go down an arts path or a science path or whatever. We need everybody to be on this path together.
Yeah, I'll just tell my story quickly. I started in journalism 30 years ago now. I'm really old. And I fell into this. I was always an environmentalist, and I started at the Weather Network and learned a lot about weather and changing patterns and climate change, global warming. And I kind of fell in love with a very local movement in Toronto. We're going back quite a few years ago. And I actually left my job at the Weather Network to host and produce a television series called A Greener Toronto, which was the first local show of its kind in Canada. And everybody told me I was crazy to do that. Oh my gosh, you're leaving this big job at the Weather Network, blah, 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 blah. But I found my passion, and there were so many wonderful stories to tell. And since then, that's what I've done. I've used media and my background in media to promote and educate and help people to live more sustainable lives. So it can be done. I did it and lots of other people before me. So it's great advice. Like if you find your passion and it happens to be in sustainability, that's a big bonus because you guys are the future. So yeah, great advice. Nicole, did you want to add any? Sorry, Elaine, did you want to add anything?
I'm jumping back on as far as jobs and the environment. So what you said is true. Your passion, follow your passion, and don't be afraid as a youth to speak up. I know that in Toronto alone, there's a place called Culture Links that promotes New Canadians and active, safe, and sustainable transportation, where they'll actually bring bikes to your community. Well, that started by someone advocating for bikes, and now there's a hub in their school. There are bike lanes across Scarborough from Scarborough Cycles, advocates from students like yourselves. So start where you are now and then continue. Look to your university goals or college goals or whatever you'd like to do post high school. There are so many options in sustainability. Make sure that if you start in one area and it's not what you want, change. Take a detour. You've got your whole life ahead of you.
Nicole, go ahead, Dan.
I just wonder one small thing. And trades, the trades. We need the trades. They're so important. We talk about electrification. We need the trades. So I just wanted to bring up that stream too. I just think it's so, all of us, we have to do this together.
For sure. Nicole, you have a green job.
Yes, I do. So definitely to echo what Dan said, every job can be a climate job. Mine maybe looks more like a traditional climate job, working at a national environmental nonprofit. We do green infrastructure, energy work, transportation work, and I love it. It's really great, but that's not the only route by any means. There's many options, and transportation is a huge sector. So driving a bus, working on the bus, support, like teaching kids how to bike, infinite possibilities.
For sure. And tapping into your local municipalities too. There's lots of, like the City of Toronto has a great environment office looking at what they're doing. They have lots of summer programs, volunteer programs where you can get involved on the ground and build from there. Omira, you mentioned AI and a little bit earlier, and AI is certainly a really interesting thing. And I'm sure everyone here is on TikTok and Facebook and all these other platforms. What role do you think technology will play in the future of low carbon commuting?
Yeah, that's a big one. I'd say technology is going to be at the center and the heart of it. One example, our all-new Ultium battery platform technology. So where that is unique is the cells can be configured in multiple different configurations to create different vehicle sizes on the same platform. So our goal is to get everyone in an EV. So whether that's a, compact SUV. I actually came here in a Cadillac EV. If anyone wants to come out and check it out after.
Fancy.
But from an SUV to a Silverado EV pickup truck, and it's all on the same platform due to that technology. Our app, we have My Chevrolet, My Cadillac on our phones. So our phones are in direct connection with our vehicles. We can set our charging times. We can locate chargers, and actually coming very soon, which is very cool, is over-the-air software updates. So our vehicles will be able to get updated software and technology without you having to go into a dealership. It's like getting an iOS update on your phone. So technology is really at the heart of EVs in the future.
I love my Chevy app, just saying. Dan, I'm sure you'd have a lot to add here. I mean, technology and also how students can use technology to raise awareness, in their local school, in their local community.
Yeah, well, I think you're connected, right? And you can tell stories, right, through what you're already doing. And I think that's really important to share your perception and how you, like just what we've mentioned today to the elected officials. But I also think technology, like first is electrification. We know we can make electricity in the biosphere through solar and solar and wind, But my point is electrification is going to be huge with that. But I just wanted to say one thing. It is going to make a big difference, but it doesn't take away our responsibility. Like sometimes I think like, what's the end game? Me just sitting there and everything can just happen around me? Like what's the point of my life, right? So I think technology will be a piece of it. And I hope that it'll free up time for us to do beautiful things and restore and regenerate and work together, right? And I think that's the point of technology, where it takes some of the menial tasks out of the way. We don't need to do that anymore the same way. We can do it better. But what are we going to do with our time now? And hopefully we make the world that beautiful place that it can be,
Elaine, did you want to add? Pretty much what everyone said?
Yes.
Okay, this is an interesting one. How does a student choose the best low carbon commuting option for themselves? Because sometimes it's hard to know, do I take the bus, do I ride? And it is a personal choice, but are there any tips as to how do you choose the right option for yourself, Nicole?
I think it depends on many things for the individual student. You can look at if you're in the walking wheeling zone of your school, if it's within walking cycling distance, if you are able to get school bus service, or if you're outside of the catchment zone, and then you have to look at other options. So seeing what options are available, and if you are unhappy with your options, then hopefully advocate for some of the things that we've talked about before.
Lots of stuff there. Did you want to add, Elaine?
Yes, I think you have to try them out. So if you've never biked to school, try it. If you haven't done, so I know that Nicole said briefly she was talking about a walking bus. Well, that means that, I might go and pick up Dan on my way, and, we pass by 3 other friends' houses on the way. So gathering that speed. So if you don't try a certain thing out, you don't know if it's for you or not. And like jumping on the TTC in many places I'm talking again of Toronto, is really awesome, but it's not always accessible for everyone. And we know that and understand that. So I know that there's been schools in Scarborough that have actually changed bike lanes because they advocated for them. And they've changed walking routes or ways, like Jessica was talking about through their voice. They've, added crossing guards, or they've made openings up into their schoolyard in different ways. So try things out and don't be afraid to speak up.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I think also you save money. And I think for students, that's a big deal. So you're helping the environment and you're also saving money. And I'm sure, Dan, you could quickly speak to that just before we get to questions. Is saving money is what we're all trying to do right now. And low carbon commuting is a great way to do that.
Well, 100%. And I think that the one thing with low carbon community, though, sometimes we have to look upon ourselves and say, what's our barrier, right? Like, I didn't bike a lot as a kid in a certain area because I didn't know if I popped the tire, I don't know how to fix it, right? So if that's the thing I'm worried about, then learn how to fix a tire. Or make a friend that knows how to fix a tire, right? And that's what this bus program we do in Kingston is about. It's about just eliminating some of the barriers. But you have to be real with yourself and identify what are the barriers that you're really worried about, right? Like, is it darkness at night, which is a very valid thing, right? Okay, well, how can that be different, right? Are we advocating for more lights, or you know what I mean? So we have to look upon the gaps to make that better future. As for costing, like walking's the cheapest, right? Bikes are probably next cheap, and probably, all the public options, but yeah, like the average Canadian, this was before COVID, lives, I think 60% of people in Canada live paycheck to paycheck. That's a lot, and that's me for many years, truthfully. But why are we fighting for this world? Why are we fighting for the status quo? Why can't we make it better, right? And so that's kind of where I did there.
Yeah,
I just want to add to your talk about biking. So in every city, there are bike communities out there that will come and host things at your school. They'll host workshops on how to fix a bike tire. They'll have bike rodeos to show you how to ride your bike safely. Some communities, like Culture Links, I'm going back to them, actually provide bikes for certain schools from low-income areas so that those students can use those bikes. And the same for skates and all sorts of variety of different equipment. So look out for those hubs that will come in and provide for you, which is great.
And also summits like this and eco schools have lots of resources and information. So again, it's speaking up and using your voice. So speaking of your voices, thank you so much to all of you. Big round of applause. So now we're going to open it up for questions. I hope we have some questions. Anybody? Bueller? Does anyone know that joke?
Bueller?
I'll steal one of your mics.
Yeah.
So we can
Oh, yeah, I
pass.
probably should. Oh, yeah, perfect. Hi.
My question is, does GM see a future in expanding beyond cars to other forms of transportation, like public transportation?
So that is an absolutely great question. The future and opportunities are endless. I can't get into specifics, but I mean, at the Consumer Electronics Show, Cadillac did reveal concept vehicles, which did definitely expand beyond vehicles. So we had multi-purpose, 6 people can fit, and it's like in an autonomous driving meeting room. So there's no driver behind the wheel, and you have multiple individuals in there. We're actually producing BrightDrop here in Canada, which is for package delivery, and fleet companies, which are large vans, all the way to another concept vehicle, which was an individual hover rover, where the individual was flying autonomously over the traffic. So I'd say opportunities and possibilities are open.
That's a great question. What about stuff like buses, electric buses? That's something that we would love to see more of, I'm sure.
Yeah, so Green Communities Canada is also part of the Canadian Electric School Bus Alliance. So we're definitely in favor of electrification for shared mobility systems, such as school buses. So it's really low-hanging fruit in terms of our big electrification challenge. So that's definitely an area that we're prioritizing, and it's a big challenge with the fleet operators, with getting funding, and then getting them out and on the streets.
For sure. That's always the case. Any other questions? Hi.
How did you guys get into doing this, and what it keeps you inspired to keep fighting for it?
Do you want to take it, Elaine? Start.
Sure. Well, for me, it started in outdoor education, where if you're from Toronto, you went to an overnight site when you're in grade 6. That sparked my passion for being outside, which then made me fall in love with being outside, and just rolled over to how do I take care of the environment that we live in. Being a teacher, I want to teach students, pass on the word, become an advocate. Advocate for yourself, for the community that you live in, for our country, for the world, and becoming green by being outside is really how I got into it. So Toronto Outdoor Education Schools is amazing. Come and visit if you would like.
Dan, how about you?
I think it's just once I saw it. And what I mean by that is certain things I've been told in the world, and I've traveled a bit, and I've seen, so 1804, 1927, 1960, 1974, 1987, 1999, 2011, 22, 8 billion people now. 8 billion humans. And we're mammals. Don't forget we're mammals, I think, by the way, right? So I know this sounds crazy, but when I saw the picture of the Earth, when you see it like that, you guys know Google Earth? Mm-hmm. Everyone knows that, right? When you zoom out, you can see the blue dot there. And when you really think about the perception of where we are, as soon as I put this together in my head, I said, there's nothing, I just have to do this. That's the only thing I can do, because that's my reality. So no matter where I worked, it was about 20 years ago, I think I saw The Inconvenient Truth. It was a movie, a documentary. And when I saw some of these things that clicked together, they're just very simple. I'm a mammal, I'm in a closed system, and I've been told a lot of stories. That's what our cultures are, right? And so ever since that, I just knew I had to try to make it not just about humans, but just bigger about the system. So no matter where I worked, it was with that passion.
How about you, Amira?
Yeah, so interesting. How did I get in? I mean, I've got a commerce degree, and for me, my father, he was my passion and my motivation. I wanted to be just like him in the business industry. But then I don't have any kids, but my niece was born, and then I started looking at, okay, it's more than just about me. And so looking at our company's vision, like I said, my role wasn't here 2 years ago, but I jumped on it because I realized that I can make a difference. And, and like you mentioned, eco jobs are everywhere, right? So that's how I got into it.
And you, Nicole?
Well, my background is in communications, and I was working at different corporations and didn't really like the messages that I was putting out, and felt that I wanted to be making a difference in what I was doing. So I started volunteering with organizations like Greenpeace and other local groups, and getting interested in urban design. And then I was able to get a job where I was working with commuters primarily, to get people to walk and bike and bus and carpool to and from work. And then now I'm working with kids. So a lot of the same issues, but different challenges here.
Yeah, for me, I grew up in Africa, and I was very fortunate enough to spend vacations and safari, and seeing animals in their natural environment is very awe-inspiring, and I was very blessed to have that experience. So from a very young age, I was a conservationist. Every project was always around conservation and volunteering for, it started with animal rights, and then it moved into more environmental work. But yeah, you find your passion, right? Anybody else? someone back.
So I have a question from our Zoom and our YouTube live stream as well, actually. So this is a request just for Omira. If you could please repeat the name of the GM program that partners with community sites to install the level 2 charging stations.
Yes, it's our dealer community charging program. So yes, reach out to your local General Motors dealer. You can get free chargers installed in your schools, or reach out to me directly.
Perfect, thank you. And one more question just from our Zoom viewers here. So this question is from Gary Fiernal. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So this question is, would schools ever get behind offering some sort of sharing solution, such as e-scooters, e-bikes, bikes, for students to access to encourage that non-car transport?
Elaine?
So thinking about that, I'm not sure of the liability around vehicles and lending them out to students. So the best person to direct that question would be your sustainability office within your board. Again, I think it would be a liability as far as us doing that. But I know that, in fact, I'm working on a project with the BC electric buses coming up, and I think you're involved in that too. I just realized as you were speaking, in that promoting electric buses and going that route. But as far as lending those sorts of things, I can't see it, but you can be hopeful.
Dan, you've had more kind of hands-on experience in this.
Yeah, that's where I would say it starts with, like, look for some precedent. What else is being lended, on and off site, what's being used, right? I think that you find, I always like looking at great things across the world. Okay, maybe it's a different spot, how did it work, right? And then maybe it's not the board, or if we're talking about liability, maybe it's a third party. You have not-for-profits like the Boys and Girls Club come into your community.
Like
right?
Culture Links with bikes, right? They lend them, but it's not the board.
Like the first thing I do always is just kind of take that like listen with intent, right? That idea of looking into it is just take some time to research what's happening already and what could happen, and think a little bit, not just the same thing. Because that's where we get boxy, I think. It's like, well, there's the bikes don't, but maybe there's another thing that it kind of structurally is the same type of idea, and you can learn from that.
And don't be afraid to speak up and ask questions. That's really the most important takeaway, I think, today, is to be an advocate. If you want something, just go out and get it. Ask and make it happen. Anybody else want to finish it off? Oh, we're all good. Yeah? Nicole,
I'm not familiar with any lending schemes, but I'd definitely be in favor of more strategies to just get kids bikes and rollerblades and scooters and things for them to have, because transportation isn't just to and from school, and we really want them to have the independence to be able to get around their communities outside of school hours and during the summer and things like that. So yeah, programs like Culture Link, or integrating bike building into classes or after school programs or different things like that, but getting kids the tools that they need to get around actively.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Big round of applause for our panel. Thank you so much. Oh, there was one more question.
Yeah, it's not really a question. It's kind of just a build on to this conversation that we're just having about like lending schemes. I went to University of Victoria, and we had a like on-campus cycling like hub kind of, and maybe I didn't learn this until my second year, but you could for $40 get a bicycle for like you pay a $40 deposit, and if you return that bike, you get, I think you either got $20 back or the whole $40, and they could also teach you how to like fix a tire there, and I guess this whole thing just started because a group of students like wanted to make it happen. So yeah, I mean, it seems too good to be true, and it was a thing, and I got a bike there, and yeah, these things are possible. You just have to make them happen, I guess. Yeah.
I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, my dad always said, if you don't ask, you don't get. Yeah. So you're so exposed to technology today. When I was going to school, we'd have to go to the library and look at something called microfiche. I'll just let you Google that. I'm not going to explain what it is. But you can literally go online and see what other cities in other countries are doing, schools in other countries are doing, and then try and implement those things in your own school. So don't be afraid to do it. Just do it. Thank you all so much. There's still a great, hi.
I'm just going to jump in because that type of program has existed in TDSB schools, right? So Central Toronto Academy has a fleet of bikes that are connected with Culture Link.
Yep.
Those bikes are used by other schools in the area, such as Harvard Collegiate. Cycling education programs happen into their classes. with students being able to use those bikes from Central Toronto Academy and Harvard to do cycling education. There's been bike build programs to partner with Bike Pirates, for example, and also CultureLink over the last number of years. So students actually do learn how to do repairs on bikes, and they, at the end of the day, ride away with their own bike right into the hill. So all these types of programs or examples of those programs exist right here, right? So if there are students from TDSB schools, right, you can connect with the board people. And if you're from different communities, then it's making those networks and connections with NGOs, right, who are in the community already doing that work and seeing what type of partnerships, right, can be developed in order to, you know, provide access to those bikes. It's not like you're going to be using that bike to ride to and from school, but you can learn how to ride a bike, get training on how to ride safely, what are, you know, rules of the road, etc. And then if there are other programs, right, that allow you to get a bike, then hey, fantastic, and you're riding on your own. Right?
So also more
just to mention that, right?
perfect.
It's not hypothetical. This
No.
is real world stuff that has happened.
And I guess more awareness that programs like this do exist. Maybe a lot of people don't know that, and that's where the accessibility comes into play, is that, you know, if you don't know, you don't know, right? And that's part of the problem. Well, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you to our wonderful panel.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Candice. And thanks to all our panelists for this rich and constructive and inspiring discussion. Thanks to all our participants. It's really a pleasure to have you all with us today. Before leaving, we would like to remind you about our closing event. So we invite you to join us with the eco teams from across Canada for our closing and inspiration events. It's on Thursday, March 23 at 12. And it's a very good opportunity to get inspired by the work, the amazing work that eco teams are doing in their schools and community. So merci Candice, merci à tous nos et toutes nos panélistes pour cette discussion très riche, constructive et inspirante. Merci à tous nos participants et participantes. C'était un honneur de vous avoir parmi nous aujourd'hui. Donc avant de nous quitter, on voudrait juste faire un petit rappel par rapport à notre cérémonie de clôture de l'événement. Donc nous vous invitons à nous rejoindre avec les éco-écoles de partout au Canada pour notre cérémonie de clôture et notre événement Inspiration le jeudi 23 mars à midi. Donc laissez-vous inspirer par le travail extraordinaire que les éco-équipes accomplissent dans leurs écoles et dans leurs communautés scolaires. Notez que cet événement aura lieu en anglais seulement. So we wish you a great weekend and a great rest of the school year.
Happy March break.
March break.